over the Starnberger with a shower of rain. And we went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin gar keine Russin Stamm, echt Litauen, echt Deutsch. And when we were children saying, etc., etc. You know the poem.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know the poem. Everyone knows the poem.
Right now.
It's The Wasteland, T.S. Eliot.
Yes, T.S. Eliot. Yes,
So you're giving away your ignorance. This is terrible. That's my big test.
I was very lucky back in college when I was taking a course called Oral Interpretation of Literature or something like that, and I happened to select
Wasteland.
Let Us Go Then You and I, the nation is laid out against the sky.
Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Yes, and it happened to be my professor's favorite poem.
Who was your professor?
Oh, I don't remember his name, and he wouldn't remember mine, but we both remembered T.S. Eliot.
It's one of mine.
And so, fortunately, since that was his favorite poem, I became his favorite student.
That's right. Let us go down certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of something nights, sawdust something in single night hotels, and something with oyster shells. Okay.
This way. Because you're a little bit, no, the other direction.
Right.
I know that's not the most comfortable
No, that's all right.
chair. Well, I've wanted to talk to you for a long time, and I'm absolutely delighted.
It's pleasure to be here.
Have come into.
Will I come through all right on the stand? Right? Sure. Okay. Or do you want it? Should I talk straight into it?
Don't worry about it. Just,
Don't worry about
stay
it.
in that general vicinity and
right.
try to forget that it's there.
The level's all right. Yeah.
It's possible.
Yes.
So yes, I have wanted to talk to you for a long time. So it's a rare treat for me. This happens to be my birthday.
Oh, many happy returns.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
This is an especially nice birthday
It's a good
present.
month because it's just a week after the birthday of D.H. Lawrence, whose centennial we're celebrating.
Absolutely, and you have two new books out, published in the United States. One, of course, is about D.H. Lawrence, called Flame into Being, and the other, The Kingdom of the Wicked. And I want to ask you some questions about both the books and about yourself. Let's start first about D.H. Lawrence. You did not, obviously, in Flame into Being, set out to write a definitive biography, but you have written a great deal in this book about D.H. Lawrence and your affection for him. Why is D.H. Lawrence such an important literary figure in your life?
Well, in my life particularly, I think because he belongs to the same class as myself. He had much the same sort of experience as myself as a writer and as a man. We have to remember that literature in England is still pretty much in the hands of the Bloomsbury gang, or rather their successors. I mean, Virginia Woolf, E.M. Forster, Bertrand Russell, T.S. Eliot, these were the great figures, and they were all vaguely aristocratic. They were connected with the great universities, whereas Lawrence was the son of a coal miner. Had a brief education at Nottingham University, ran away with his professor's wife, who was a German baroness, and lived mostly out of England, was accused of being a spy during the war, had a hell of a bad time, and I rather sympathise with this. He was not a member of the establishment. He was always a rebel, always on the outside, badly treated, sometimes deservedly. And, of course, he ends up with the biggest literary scandal of all, which I think is, nice for a writer. I don't like writers to be too respectable. He was not.
You see yourself cut from that same mold, the more humble origins and also literary rebel?
Yes, that's true. Lawrence came from Nottinghamshire, right in the middle of England, and I came from Manchester, up in Lancashire, the northwest, and whereas Lawrence's father was a coal miner, my father was a tobacconist. He sold tobacco to the poor, cigarettes and so on, in a mean street in Manchester, and that's my background. Again, I did not go to Oxford or Cambridge. I went to Manchester University, and I also married a foreign aristocrat. He married a German baroness, I married an Italian contessa, and I live abroad. So there is something in common. And I've had trouble with books, too.
Oh, what kind of trouble have you had?
Well, I wrote a particular book which I don't really like talking too much about. It came out in 1962, called A Clockwork Orange, and when the book appeared, it fell into a great silence, as many books do, but then a film was made of it 10 years later, and then the trouble began. I was accused of fomenting violence, rape, mayhem everywhere because of this film and because of the book it was based on. And I still have to live this down. Lawrence, of course, was accused of fomenting sexual desire, lust, fornication. And he, dead though he is, still has to live that down.
It's terrible. creating a desire for lust and
all these
sexual gratification.
All these lovely things without which we can't really live. I agree.
I suppose, in most respects, D.H. Lawrence was well ahead of his time in writing so explicitly about sex.
Well, I don't think it was. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think it was solely about sex. I think it's the whole philosophy he tried to teach, which has not really been accepted yet, not even here in America. He said that the intellect was less important than the capacity to feel, to the instincts, the sense of belonging to nature. This was rather new at the time, and in a curious way, his prophecies have been fulfilled. He said we could only start to live when we overcome the horror of the industrial age, which, in a sense, we are doing. We can only start to live when we feel ourselves to be part of the ecology, which is what we're doing. We must regard ourselves as part of the cosmos, which again came up from various sources, from Zen, Buddhism, and other Oriental religions. But he was a prophet, a genuine prophet. I think he did foresee something of our own age.
It's interesting what you said about A Clockwork Orange, and some of the publicity material that Arbor House said does quote you as saying that you'd like to live down the novel.
Yeah.
And yet, I was talking to a writer a while back by the name of Sloan Wilson, who has not been successful in turning out the kinds of books of literary quality as his first book, which was called A Man in the Gray Flannel Suit.
Yes, I know that very well.
And so I asked him, he was very young, he was 25, 26 when he wrote that book, and he's spent the rest of his life writing. He still writes, and his books are not widely praised at all. But I asked him, I said, aren't you afraid of being categorized as a one-novel writer? Because it's the only book anybody remembers you by. And he says, well, I don't think that's bad. He says, if I have to go to my grave being recognized for my accomplishment in writing that one book, I think that's fine.
Yes.
You take the opposite approach, not because it's your best-known book.
No.
But because there are moral ramifications.
Yes, well, partly, yes. Well, of course, I don't think that really applied to A Man in the Grey Flannel Suit, which was greatly admired in England. I remember reading it very well, and indeed wondered what Sloan Wilson had done after that. We never saw much of what he did. I think this sort of thing has happened to many writers. It happened to Nabokov, perhaps the best, conceivably the best writer that America produced in the 20th century, although he was a Russian. Lolita has followed him to the grave and beyond, and I think it happens to everybody. I think possibly even Saul Bellow is remembered for Herzog. Or one novel as opposed to the whole lot. What we'd really want is for people to, if not read, at least to be aware of the whole lot. A kind of general progression, trying to get better, trying to write better, and trying to mature. And I don't altogether go along with Wilson. It's a pity that one is, but one is. It's what people do. One can't. You can't do anything about it.
Well, you certainly have produced an enormous quantity of work
by American standards. By
any standards,
I don't know, but you see, the tradition of writing, doing your job as a writer, as a carpenter does his job or a builder does his, is the old tradition. I think it's the tradition of Honoré de Balzac in France, who wrote all the time, wrote all night long on black coffee, trying to pay his debts, producing an enormous volume of work, and H.G. Wells in England, who wrote, never published fewer than 4 novels a year, or 4 books a year. Arnold Bennett, Dickens himself, and then we began to get this sort of constipated attitude to literature in England through the influence of an American, that was T.S. Eliot, who wrote very little, and yet gained all the major awards from everybody, and it was regarded as a sort of gentleman. It's a gentlemanly thing to write little. It's a blackguardly thing to write too much, and that's what I have to live by. Remember that H.G. Wells, I think, was a great writer, and he was published by Macmillan in England. Macmillan never invited him to dinner, although he was a bestseller, because he was scared that this counter-jumper, as he called him, would steal the spoons.
A blackguardly thing for writing too much.
Blackguards, yes. The writer is a blackguard.
The writer... Herbert Gold, an American writer, is one who writes insatiably, and he would scream to his ex-wife, "Stop me before I write more."
Yes.
Keep starting it out.
He's a great writer.
A Clockwork Orange, I don't want to go back to that, but it's certainly a book that deals with another preoccupation in your life, which is the conflict between good and evil.
Yes, it was meant to be that, yes.
Well, apparently, this is a renewed conflict in your book.